Right.
Hey everybody, it's Spectral Sailor, and we
Well,
are interviewing E.V.P.S Paranormal tonight from Ohio, right? All of you are from Ohio.
Yep.
And we have Joe, Alex, and Diane, myself, and Jason.
What's up, guys? What's up, guys? How you doing?
Oh,
And I'm just posted it on y'all's page so that people can see it or whatever. I don't know if you have to approve it or not. Like if you have a phone, you can approve it on or something. That way they can actually click on it and they should be able to join in and like talk to you guys on the live.
Okay, cool.
Perfect.
Yeah. They might have to join Paranormal United Network, but that's okay because we want to bring people to the dark side. No. Bring them over. Or whatever. I don't know. All right. So I do have some questions because I always write down some questions just in case the audience doesn't pull up a lot of questions or whatever. They don't ask a lot of questions.
Okay.
And since you had some young members on your team or whatever, Hi, Sydney. I was wanting to know, when did the younger members, like, how old were they when they started doing the paranormal stuff with you? And, like, how long have you been doing it, Joe?
Me? Well, actually, both of these two here, Diane and Alex, are both my kids. And they've pretty much been involved with it ever since I got started in a group, which I think I started this group in, 2008?
Yeah.
something like that.
And it was one of the things where I didn't let them do a whole lot in the beginning because, for one, I didn't know a whole lot myself. I was still learning. And the first time I did anything, I did like a creepy graveyard thing that scared the hell out of me. So it took a while to kind of learn how to do the audio portion of it. So I was kind of skeptic to let them like get real involved with it at first, and then them being young, obviously, they're a little scared and things like that when
Yeah,
you're doing like that.
creeped out.
Oh, a little bit, yeah.
So they were pretty young then when they just started learning the ropes or whatever and getting prepared to do the stuff that they do now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, that's cool. I actually have a 4-year-old that's very interested in the stuff that I do, and I try to explain it to him and let him watch live videos and question and answer stuff that we do so he can kind of like try to understand it because he thinks it's creepy, which, he's 4, so that makes sense, but so he won't be creeped out by it,
Yeah,
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah. What do you guys use, and what is your favorite things to do as far as a method or like a way that you do things or a piece of equipment, a device?
Well, what do you two answer that?
Go ahead, Alex.
I'd say my favorite piece of equipment to use is probably an audio recorder because you can just get raw data like right away after you're done.
Yeah.
And it's very like instant when you do it. But yeah, I'd say that's probably my favorite. What was the other question?
Like your methods, like do y'all have a favorite method of the way that you do things, like from beginning to end, like the way that you kind of just start or the way that like you do things when you go into the location for the first time, I guess?
That mainly depends on like where we're going.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I think I understand what she's wanting to. Okay, so for example, we just did an investigation this last weekend at Edna Collins. And what was the other one, Diane? Pearl Bryan, the grave. So you guys give an example of how we did one of those. Then that way she kind of see how we really do it.
So for Pearl Bryan, since I kind of do a lot of the research for the group, I can kind of tell you what we kind of do as a group as far as the research goes. We kind of pick out pieces of what we do. We kind of start with maybe some questions that are basic, especially if we're doing something kind of like an audio recording. And then we kind of delve into maybe more of like the storyline, especially if there is some kind of history that's tied into it. But otherwise, we pretty much, we kind of go with the flow with a lot of things because the paranormal can also be unexpected.
That is very true. You never have two exactly of the same investigation. That's for sure.
That is definitely for sure.
I'm just sharing this stuff out so more people will like be aware that we're live or whatever.
So like as far as like a format when we roll up to a location, for example,
Yeah.
like the Edna Collins Bridge, when we first drove up to the location, you know, it's very dark and things like that, which we haven't done completed our video yet. We got a lot of work to do still, but it was very dark. We had to find a place to kind of pull off because it was a you know like a public covered bridge kind of thing.
Yeah.
And once we kind of got our bearings and figured everything out, we started grabbing you know little pieces of equipment stuff, and then we was trying to basically create a game plan on the fly. So it kind of a lot of the stuff kind of depends on that basically because we just recently did a school called Post Town Elementary, and it was really cool. But that's not typically the kind of investigation that we usually do. We kind of pride ourselves in like the outdoor stuff, you know, because there's a lot of noise around in public places and things like that, and a lot of people don't do that. And you know, we do things in the daytime, nighttime, you know, whatever. So we've always kind of wondered, like, well, why? You know, it's pretty much there at all times. You know, I know there are hours for certain things, whatever, supposedly, but I've caught evidence on pretty much any hour of the day. So we've kind of developed basically kind of based on that, just you know, more or less on the fly, like Diane said.
Yeah. Kind of when you get to your surroundings, then you kind of like just maneuver.
Yeah, I mean, we have a general idea what we're going to do, you know, from the get-go based on what she would pull up on research. But I don't personally like to know a whole lot of things before I go to a location because I don't want to lead myself into certain things.
I don't either. I don't like to know hardly anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very little for me because then I feel like, for example, oh, they heard something over here sitting in the chair. Well, then I'll focus on the chair, and I don't want to. I want you know to have my attention everywhere. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I don't personally do it. I want to make sure that I'm prepared for anything that I might see.
Right.
Yeah, and if you're focused in the wrong direction, then you are going to miss a piece of evidence that's in the other direction that you probably would have saw. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
I kind of like what you said about the daytime stuff because I totally believe that too. You know, a lot of people think you just have to go, you know, investigation at nighttime. That's not true. You know, if it's there during the nighttime, it's there during the day too. It doesn't go away. You know,
exactly.
Yeah. You know, so we've done a lot of daytime stuff too. You know, for those reasons. You know, we don't say okay, yeah, we're going to be there at midnight. You know, it just doesn't matter. I mean,
right.
You know, sometimes that adds to it as far as like if you're filming or things like that for the, you know, basically the creepy factor. If you know, if you want to pick up a lot more, like, you know, it's easier to see orbs and things like that. But, you know, if it's, you know, if it's there, then the night time's there in the day too. So there's no difference, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I believe. It's one of those things where it's like I guess the filming aspect of it, kind of like what you're saying, it's easier to capture orbs and things like that because you don't have the light, the bleeding in of the light and stuff like that. But as far as the audio and stuff, I mean, sometimes it's kind of odd. It depends on the location, but I've gotten more at locations in the daytime than what I have at night. Like, for example, the school. The school we used to go to a place called Hughes School a lot. And, you know, being a school, you know, obviously there's certain things that happen certain times of the day. And, you know, kind of like with other theories that, you know, if you have this happening at a train station at this time of the day, it's like a busy time, you know, so the imprint might be, you know, residual imprint might be there at that time of the day, not only, but maybe more so at that time than what it would any other time. So it's just kind of like what you said, it's kind of all over.
I would bet like a place that it wouldn't matter. You know, a lot of people bring up Gettysburg. I'm sure that's a place where it doesn't matter daytime or nighttime at all. You know, you're going to get something usually, especially audio. But, you know, it's just one of those things. People who are brought into it on TV and things like that. They're all done at nighttime. And it's mainly for that factor of, you know, it's 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever, you know, and then, you know, you have to do it at nighttime. It's just more, you know, it's more creepy. It's more built for the audience, really. But, you know, it's like, you know, we do it, like I said, or during the day, during the night. It doesn't really matter when we go.
Yeah, it's kind of like a necessary evil as far as the show kind of format goes. I understand why they do it, and it looks better and creepier and stuff like that for the film. But it's basically a lot of just that, really.
Right.
I do think some locations have less noise interference at night, but not all of them if they're public.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, that's true, and sometimes it's equipment wise, like you're going to talk about using your laser grids and things like that, where you can pick up stuff at nighttime, obviously, but it does help when it's a little bit darker out. But it's the same during the day.
Right.
Yep.
Sydney had said it is hard to not know about some locations or a lot of them if they're well known. But yes, the less known places, of course. I think some of the places that y'all have been through that I've seen, I haven't heard of most of them, so I don't think that they're super duper like a flocked to high traffic location. Am I right or am I wrong?
Right. So we've had you probably can't see this. I got a really crappy. Okay, you kind of have. So just for the lack of graphical
a pyramid
inability,
the triangle. Do I get a prize?
So there was a place that we used to live, and it was really close to that Hughes school, and basically one end of that triangle was our house. Another end of that triangle was the two schools. There was Hughes School, and then right next door there was Liberty Elementary, and they shared the same parking lot or something. And then down the road from that was, depending on how you wanted to draw the triangle, either the Screaming Bridge or another cemetery, and they were both kind of active. So anywhere within that like triangular type area, we got a lot of stuff. I mean, there were some high-powered electric lines. We tried to disprove that with the EMF and stuff, and certain areas, you would get, different fluctuations, but even where there was no lines, it was very high and very sporadic and up and down. And we get E.V.P.S all over the place. We get weird things on our cameras. It was pretty much anywhere that we went, noises. And it was kind of neat because there's only one other area I know in our location that kind of makes a weird triangle or, geographic shape or whatever. And that's in Kentucky, which is probably 20 minutes from us here.
20 minutes, yeah.
Which is, starts at Bobby Mackey's and then goes to the Beverly Hills Supper Club. And then there's another one kind of like towards the Newport area, which I don't remember. I just recently found out about it, so I don't remember what that location is. But it makes this weird little triangle too. And there's the only two I know in my area that has that kind of activity, that anywhere in between there is just kind of like, I guess you would say like a hot spot. Kind of,
or like a matrix or something.
Yeah,
maybe
portal or whatever.
Portal matrix, yeah.
Now,
what's the movie The Matrix? Oh no, I'm just thinking like there's a matrix there.
That area you're talking about, is it have a bunch of like limestone and bodies of water, or is it just
that's a good question. So the Kentucky area, I think, has. It's a little more raw, so you can see like the hills and stuff are a little more cut out. But the Ohio Valley over. Go ahead, Diane.
I was about to say that there's the Licking River that's actually next to Bobby Mackey's. So that's actually where, when Bobby Mackey's was a slaughterhouse, where they would dump things down out into the Licking River too. So that's
the river is in that area.
Yes.
It's included in that pyramid, like that, not pyramid, but that roped off area that you've got like mapped out where, XYZ.
Right.
Well, that's pretty cool. That's really cool. I know that I see a lot of people on, which I don't watch a lot of television. I just don't. But on the shows that I do watch, like on Nat Geo or whatever, Discovery, they're always trying to figure out like, sometimes why a certain location, like a grid. Basically, they like have, a location and like they move in grid style, trying to figure out what is making all this activity happen. Is it something, under the ground? Is it something, in the atmosphere, some kind of magnetic field? What's going on? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, sort of like Skinwalker Ranch, that whole area, it's sort of like the same thing. Nobody can really explain why the entire area is that way,
That area really fascinates me. I was really struck by the first time I seen that on whatever show it was we seen, and then there's a there's a little series they recently did that I seen. I can't remember the name of it now. It might just be called Skinwalker Ranch. I don't remember. But there's a lot of really cool stuff that they've picked up on that show, and that's amazing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have a friend that lives right next to it, so we plan on
really?
getting up there at some point.
Actually, there's
cool.
a lady that's on Paranormal United Network, and she's a psychic medium on our page. Y'all should follow the page and see some of the shows or whatever, because there's different shows and there's different teams from like even the UK and Scotland and Ireland and stuff that post little shows and interviews like this, and like all different kinds of information and research and studies, even like, over like Dracula or like Mothman or Bigfoot and UFOs and stuff like that. But yeah, there's a lady that's a psychic medium that lives really close to there. We're gonna go
Right.
visit someday, hopefully.
Yeah, so would you say that area you were describing, is that basically kind of like your homegrown location, like that's your base?
No, not anymore. Years ago, we used to live out there. I haven't lived there in, God, what,
A while.
15 years or more?
Yeah.
It's been a while. But we had that Hughes school. We recently just went back to it. And I think one of our videos, we called it Hughes Revisited or something like that. And it's one of them places where we had a lot of activity centered around my son. Well, when we went back this time, we had a lot of the same kind of energy interacting with my son, but this time it felt a little different. Like it was a little, I don't know if you'd say
More
it was,
aggressive.
yeah, darker or something. It was different because the things that were capturing and stuff just wasn't quite the same. It wasn't as friendly, I guess I should say. I won't really say dark because I didn't really feel in danger or anything like that. I haven't really met a location.
It was just more
like
aggressive. It wasn't like there wasn't a presence there that didn't make you feel at a place, but it definitely felt like, something was there trying to contact us, whether it be a dark or a lighthearted spirit or something along the lines of that. And it wasn't, I don't feel like it wasn't dark, but it definitely was trying to make contact with us.
I know that a lot of teams have their place where they really like to claim that that's their kind of thing, where they go to a lot for evidence. And so, yeah, I can understand going there. It sounds like it's a place you need to kind of revisit and just do a couple different types of experiments each time.
Yeah, we've been there several times, and I think we're gonna back off a little bit because I don't want to like go to the same location and just keep picking at. I don't want to disturb everything too much. Because if it is something that's a little more on that side, I don't want to risk the chance of like attachments and things like that. Because I do this little simple prayer that I've gotten from a little priest, but it's like a 1 or 2 liner kind of thing, and that's all I really have. I haven't really come across an area where I felt like I needed a lot of protection. So I feel okay with that. But, if I go diving too deep into stuff like that, I don't want to go in there without protection or whatever, you know what I mean?
Right.
So we try not to do any of that stuff anyway, because I don't want to become a group that, goes after that. Like, for example, Ghost Adventures. I love them, to watch them on TV, but it seems like everything they do anymore is all that drama, and it's all about that, and it's just
Yeah.
They start off so good and clean, and then it's just show. It seems like.
Yeah, it's like we kind of represent a lot, about going to every place you go to, you get possessed, and but like I've given them their credit too, for bringing the paranormal to the forefront of everybody to view, and it isn't like that though. It isn't like they're showing you on TV. It isn't nothing. It's nothing like that. It's actually you do it. It's actually pretty boring a lot of times, and that's just how it is. There's no running or screaming or yelling or none of that stuff every time,
I have a question for Diane. What is your favorite topic or subject to research?
So I pretty much like anything. I'm more so like to research things. I pretty much like any kind of topic. I like researching into kind of like the World War II times, things of that nature. But what really fascinates me, I know this kind of sounds weird, but I kind of like researching into murders, especially something like with Pearl O'Brien's case. It was a very sad but very fascinating story at the same time because it was a very gruesome story of about how far down they actually had went to sever her head from her body and how graphic it was to try and remove a baby from dental tools.
Oh wow.
My my biggest thing is I like to research the kind of the graphic and the gory parts of it. I don't know if it's because I work in healthcare, so I'm kind of just used to seeing some things like that, and maybe that's kind of why I relate it to that. But that's one of my biggest topics. I like to research into that, and I feel like there's a connection with somebody's darker past with the paranormal.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, I'm really fascinated with that kind of stuff, like cold case files and different criminal investigations and stuff like that. I think there's quite a few people that do this that are kind of drawn to that kind of stuff. Maybe they have some, like you said, maybe that's the connection. Like
maybe.
Yeah. That question I just wrote down after you said you do the research. I was like, what kind of you like to research? What motivates you guys the most to do this paranormal work?
I can kind of say what motivates me the most to do this is because when I was younger, before we even started doing this as like an official group, I had seen things. I still see things to this day, especially when it's a family member that passes away. I see them after they die. And I'm always like, it's nothing. I blew it off for a long time and it keeps happening. Now I've seen from, again, working in healthcare, I also see the same people that I've taken care of after they've passed away. And it's kind of interesting. So that's one of the biggest reasons why it fascinates me, because I know this stuff is definitely out there and I feel like I'm drawn to it somehow.
I want to know what motivates you guys too, but I have another question that kind of stems off what you just said. Working in the healthcare system, did you start to have more activity or did things start to be more noticeable and revealing to you once you started doing that?
I kind of noticed more of it when people had, especially after when I started taking care of people, I kind of started noticing it more after they've passed on. It's more so like I notice it when people have moved on and I guess move on to the different realm of wherever that may be, that I feel more activity or I feel like there's more to that, like their death.
Yeah. And do you take care of some of the people or maybe get kind of attached to them and maybe they kind of I don't know, I hear this sometimes from people. I've talked to CNAs and like medical people and they'll say that they had a patient and they passed away and then that patient tried to contact them afterwards because they kind of had a bond with them. Has that ever happened?
That has happened before.
Yeah.
And it kind of freaked me out a little bit because when I've taken care of some of these people, they're not always in their right mind. But it's like when they come back, it's like they're free of any of those illnesses that they've had in their actual living being in themselves.
Yeah. What motivates you guys, Joe and Alex?
I'd say for me, what motivates me more is finding answers towards some of the research that Di does. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered towards paranormal, and I feel like our main group to look for some of that stuff, and it's based off more of finding truth more than getting reactions out of things and whatnot. So I think that finding answers is definitely what motivates me. What about you?
For me, it's just it's a little bit of everything. I don't get into the research part of it like Diane does. So I'm in my mind, I'm very fortunate to have somebody that loves to dive into all that stuff the way she does. And everybody in our group kind of compliments everybody as far as like what the little jobs are and stuff that we do. Some of us are better at other things or have interest in other things. But the paranormal aspect, I would say for me, that really is kind of odd and drawing is it's kind of hard for me to describe because when I go to a location, and even if it's a quote scary one, I don't really feel that like everybody else does. I just feel it's not like a comfortable feeling. It's just more of I'm super interested. Just everything and anything that goes on, just the fact that, something else could be out there. It could be from another dimension. It could be, parallel things, happening at the same time. And it could be, an energy left over or something, that left your body. And there's so many things that go through my head that it could possibly be that it's completely fascinating to me. Once I was opened up to it all, it's just like everything is a possibility, basically.
Yeah.
I wanted to go ahead and answer Adam's question.
Yeah.
Yes, I have actually had one that got kind of attached because they didn't really have a whole lot of family in their living life. And basically kind of what I tell them if I do see them is that it's okay. You can move on. You need to move on. And when my time comes, I'll eventually have to move on too.
That's a good idea. I've never heard anyone say that part at the end that you said. Yeah. It might be more comforting for them to know that you're going to do that too. So it's okay if they do it,
Yeah, I know kind of what you just said. You're very fortunate to have somebody on your team who does some research and that looks into everything like that. Kind of where you're a little bit more free to do kind of what you were saying, more in tune with it. But I appreciate you, Rosie. So I'm just saying.
Thank you. Yeah, I do a lot of research. I've actually done a little bit of everything, I guess. I don't know. I just feel like I'm like the Jill of all these trades for our group. But yeah, I've done a lot of research too. I don't know that I've actually had any cases as gruesome as the one that you described, though, like the baby and stuff being removed. But we've had some pretty crazy ones, like some pretty sad, unfortunate events that happen with kids involved, and husband and wives maybe fighting, and like one of the places the woman had been caught on fire. The wife had been caught on fire and she didn't go to the hospital. And so it got infected and it killed her. And there's lots of questions around why that would happen. Why wouldn't she go to the hospital?
Yeah. So I wanted to answer, I think it was Sydney's question, Sydney James. So the scariest experience that I had happened was this weekend. And this was something that I had never experienced before. This was totally out of character for me. As we were investigating the Edna Collins Bridge, I kept seeing things like shadow figure type things. And without trying to go too further into everything without releasing one of our videos, my brother there, Alex, had actually gotten pushed into me as I was seeing a shadow figure. Then shortly after, I think about 10, 20 minutes later that had happened, I got really emotional and I kept hearing things. I could hear everybody else talking, but it felt like I was not there. And I started to sob. Like I was sobbing the whole way. I told my father, because I was driving, I said, you have to drive. Like I cannot drive. We need to go back to the hotel. We need to get out of here. And when we got back to the hotel, it's kind of...
Is that what that came from? I saw those photos.
Yes. There was 3 scratches on the left side of my face. And that is something I've never had happen before.
I haven't ever had anything like that happen.
No. It was really weird. I didn't do any kind of provoking or anything like that. Oh, it's my dog, Summer.
Puppy. I see a butt. An animal butt. That's funny.
So we also noticed that when I don't remember exactly when it was, but I had some scratches right here on my bottom part of my arm that we didn't even notice. Yep. And between that and what happened with Diane, Alex getting shoved, and another member that we have, which she couldn't make it tonight, is Hope. She sent me a text message, and she was trying not to alarm anybody because there was another group of people that were there on the bridge doing stuff too, and we was trying not to like draw a lot of attention to the things that were going on. But Hope sent me a text message like, "Hey, I don't want to alarm anybody, but I'm got tightness in my chest and I'm having a little trouble breathing, a little chest pain kind of stuff." And the little girl, Diane might remember her name. She was going around a couple different times telling us that she had the same issue, which was really odd. We've never had the kind of synchronicity, that happened there. It was really different.
Yeah.
Jason, do you care to ask them a couple questions? I'm getting an emergency phone call about the vet thingy, and I'll be right back. Jason, got my back? I would not ever answer a phone call if it was an emergency on the show.
Yeah. Okay. So that kind of being said, what you're talking about, having the scratches and everybody experiencing something. A lot of teams can go out to the same locations and not experience anything, and then there's some I feel that are just a little more like in tune and accepting of what the circumstances are, and the spirits, I believe, pick up on that and they hone in. So that could be something that you're more you're more open than other people maybe, and you experience those things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it may just be, this is something that I was thinking about too. It may just be that it's just that location for us that we're more open to or whatever, because I don't feel like we're, any more unique than anybody else that would go there, but maybe like what you said, more in tune to whatever the specific location may be, or at that specific time or whatever, because it was definitely different. Because when we were investigating it, me and Hope actually went below the bridge, which we never split up that way. And we actually had the intention that night to actually stay together the entire night and just do it all as a team. But for some reason, I felt really compelled to go into the bridge, and I kept digging at it. I just had to go into the bridge. Hope finally, went with me, and that's when all the stuff happened, was when these two got separated from me and her. It's almost like it was like intentional to separate, and then everything started, kind of like coming together after that.
Right. Yeah. And that is the thing too. It's like, when you are separated, you're more vulnerable, obviously, but, and they, if you have anything that's, not negative necessarily, but something that's looking for that to just kind of like, to poke you. It's like, hey, I'm here. You're gonna leave with some scratches tonight.
Right. Yeah. You're gonna recognize me.
I was gonna answer another one of Adam's questions. He said, wanted to ask what I asked last time but ran out of time. Is everybody not afraid to die with believing in the paranormal? Personally, Adam, I can say that no. It's kind of weird that I kind of almost feel comforted in a way when I see people pass, because it's depending on how somebody dies, it's usually peaceful. So I feel like peacefully, no, I wouldn't be afraid. But if in the stance of like, yeah, if I'm about to be murdered, yeah, I probably would be afraid.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Because doing what we do when we're out there, we see that there's something more. You can't really still explain where that's coming from, but there's something there. It just kind of leads you to believe that there's more after you die, with what we're able to see and prove with evidence that we got. So, what would you guys say is your bucket list location to go to?
I can tell you what mine would be, at least the current bucket list location for me, would be Waverly Hills. I've tried really hard to get there, and I've been really close a couple times, but I just haven't been able to get there. And it's a costly investigation. There's not a lot of room there. It is what it is. It's a massive location. It's expensive. It's not really that close to our house. So, and it's very active too on top of that. So yeah, that would be mine.
What about you guys? What would you say?
I think on my bucket list, the places that I want to go, um, some of them include like the Trans Allegheny Asylum, kind of like anywhere that's like maybe a lunatic asylum or like an old hospital, because it's something that I'm kind of familiarized myself with. Um, like Waverly Hills is one of them. Anywhere kind of like that is where I would like to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I'd say for me, I don't really have a particular place in mind. Um, Everywhere I go, really, it's always truly a good time. Um, and I'm always looking forward to whenever we go to a next investigation because you never know what could happen. Especially on one of these investigations that we did this last time, was very different. I've never had anything like that happen to me before. So it's always nice to look forward to new and interesting things. But yeah, I don't have anything in particular.
So here, let me ask you this: when you experience something like that and you get pushed, or you hear something whisper in your ear, you may not pick up on EVP or anything, but you hear it and stuff. Are you excited and you want those things to happen again? Or you want it to like, man, I want that to happen again. It's so cool, or are you scared and be like, I'm backing off?
It was a little bit of a mixture of both. I'd say when that happened this past weekend, it has never happened to me before. So I was a little bit confused and frightened at the same time because it's a sensation that I've never even felt before. It felt like a 45-pound dumbbell hitting your shoulder at full force, and it was just very strange because I'm a big guy, and for me, or for something to happen to me like that, it's very different. I never even thought too before this. I thought that this was not possible because there's nothing that could do that. You would have to be like a physical being to do that. But I guess this weekend it proved me wrong, and especially with all the stuff that happened that came after that was very compelling to say the least with that. So yeah, it was very different.
I totally understand.
You'd have to have a lot of energy to do that, whatever it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like when we were at the Broken Bow, Oklahoma, and I got a piece of glass thrown at me for the first time. Anything that ever thrown at me, it hit me in the shoulder. Wow. And it like you're saying too, it's kind of scary, but it's also really exciting, because I wanted something like that to happen again. It didn't the entire night, but it's like I'm not running out of there or anything. I'm treating it with respect, but I want to see it and I want to feel it again. That, and I've experienced the scratches and things too. But as far as they say, like when a ghost touch you or you feel a ghost touch you, the way I've experienced it, and it is true, you hear it described this way, is that it really kind of feels like you're running into a spider web that's not there, and that's what it feels like to me anytime you're touched. And other than physically, like the same location, there was something that grabbed my ear, and you feel those things, but I always feel the light touch, and of course the goosebumps and the hair and you stand up, but it feels like a spider web, really, to me. Is what's always felt like.
Unless you get scratched like they did or whatever you would call that. It looked like scratches kind of, or like, I don't know, just irritated spots.
For sure. Yeah.
There's a question that Adam had asked, and I don't know if y'all had answered it because I know y'all answered a question while I stepped away, but he was asking, is everybody not afraid to die with believing in the paranormal?
Yeah, they kind of tackled that a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. Did you answer it, Jason? Or what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's like I was saying earlier, is that there's like, you missed it, but it's just the evidence that everybody's gathered over time. Our group, other groups, the guys on TV, all of it. There's just lots of evidence pointing that there's something after we die. So I mean, it's just kind of you keep living. You know, your energy doesn't die. You know, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's never destroyed. So it's got to go somewhere. So.
Well, you think about it, we're supposedly made from stars, you know, depending on
Mm-hmm.
what you believe there. And if that's the case, you know, that the energy, I mean, it doesn't ever really die, it just gets recycled.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's true.
I think the most problem I'd have with if I died right now, I'd be very upset, and I don't think I'd move on because of my kids.
Yeah.
I would feel like I had to watch over them.
Yeah,
Imagine
I would too. I taught them on purpose.
I'd gather some good EVPs.
Oh no, I'd be like the mama bear, mama tiger, crazy, like wolf mama spirit. If anyone tried to do anything to my kids and I was dead, I would have to manifest energy. I'd go to like a power plant or something. Energy to protect them. I would.
Oh,
And then we were talking about just kind of bucket list locations where you were going to. So, and they all mentioned kind of Waverly. So, and that's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, that's a big one for everybody, I feel like also too, and I've said this before, and is that, in those big locations like that are very popular that everybody goes to, there's a lot of times you go there and you won't gather anything, no matter how haunted it is, because
Yep.
those spirits are so tired, I imagine, of being asked the same questions over and over and over, or can you make a noise and all that stuff, and they see everybody coming. Sometimes they're just kind of like, here comes those people again, let's it's just, I could see that, but like in this locations like where you were talking about, that's not really hit like you guys are doing. That's where you sometimes gather the best evidence, rather than those big locations everybody knows about.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's also a good way to also kind of learn how to speak to them, because it's just like talking to a normal person. For example, if there's nothing different. And if you treat them, and if you learn how to treat them, with respect, like you obviously would treat anybody else that you run across on the street, then it'll be a lot easier for you to kind of, I won't say hone your craft, but kind of learn how to use tools and stuff. Because, like, for example, I have a lot of trouble still to this day, and I've used it quite a bit now. But there's a couple spirit boxes I have. One of them is a Radio Shack one that I kind of hacked years ago to just constantly sweep. I have a really hard time hearing things coming through there because I hear all the ads and everything else. I just recently got an SB11 spirit box, and I'm still learning how to use it, but it's really cool, some of the stuff that come through, but it's also definitely a different ear to try to hear that and learn how to do all the functions and stuff. And there's a lot to that I honestly just never thought of. Now, it's a very cool tool, but there again, it's the same as what's that? We started using the Necrophonic app quite a bit too, and that's the same kind of situation. It's very, very, I don't know, it kind of blows my mind, the things that comes across on that thing. But I also don't use anything but just hit the start button and go, because I don't know how to use any of the other things. It's just every time I try to get all the other stuff going on, I get confused, or you can't hear anything, and I'm not really sure how to use it. So we're learning, as far as those go. But we usually use like the older tech. Only here recently have we kind of like branched out, starting to use some of the newer stuff, because it seems really interesting.
Yeah, and I say this a lot too. Like, we have all the fancy equipment and all that. We have $1,000 worth of equipment in our team, but sometimes really kind of what we find sometimes more effective is like you just have your phone and a flashlight. That's perfect, because you got your mic and your camera, and they're both sensitive, and they pick up a lot of great evidence, and it's cool to have all that stuff. But at the end of the day, when you really want to do something, you don't need it. You really don't.
Just your phone and recording on your phone or something like that. No, if you get an EVP and it's clear and for sure that's what it was, that's really, I feel like that's the best evidence you can get.
Yeah, because if you're going to run across somebody that's not going to believe it, it doesn't matter if you say, "Hey, God handed this to me." They're not going to believe it one way or the other, because they already have their mind made up.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why you have so many different, like devices, psychic mediums, energy readers, energy workers, laser grid. SLS, all that stuff,
Yep.
to prove to them that they just don't have to agree with the evidence. The proof's in the pudding. You know what I mean?
Right.
The
Yep.
evidence is there.
It's great to provide the same evidence on different equipment, to validates it more than one way, and that's great. But that's kind of like what you're saying, is that we've caught some great EVPs and stuff just on our phone using the recording and using video on that. So it's cool. It's cool to have all that stuff. It really is. But if you're just going, especially like a little pop-up investigation or something, like, oh, you got your phone and a flashlight, that's all you need.
Yep.
For sure.
I've heard of people using stacks of quarters
Yeah.
too, like setting a stack of quarters somewhere, and if they move or they get knocked over, it's not windy. I was going to answer a question that someone had, and there's a couple more that I was going to pull up. That someone had asked if I do extra protection or praying or anything to keep my kids safe when I come back from an investigation. And we do every investigation, and we actually do a lot of cleansings too. I actually have done 2 cleansings. I do them almost every other week. I do a cleansing, it seems like, or at least a couple a month. But we do protection prayers when we leave, and anoint with holy oil and holy water when we leave the investigations. Ask things that they stay there after, addressing it with, the people that live there. If they want it to stay there, if not, then we get rid of it. But usually if it's a good spirit, nobody ever has had a problem so far letting it stay there, as long as it's not negative. But then, I do pray over my kids a lot, every single day, over myself, so that I stay, like clear and grounded, so I don't grab anything and bring it home with me, because then it's also going to affect my health and me and the team and my family, anyone else that's around me.
Right.
What about you guys?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think she's looking at a question.
No.
I can say that, I don't have like my own kids or anything, but since we are a family group, we also watch out for each other like family as well. Which I've kind of taken it upon myself to try and learn some of maybe those cleansing rituals or something that I can do to protect ourselves, especially after what had happened at this particular investigation. And before we do eventually go to places like Bobby Mackey's, for example, I definitely want to have a good understanding and knowledge of what we can use to protect ourselves, because I don't want this stuff to come home, and I'm sure they don't want the stuff to come home to them. So
Yeah.
I'm really trying to learn into how to do those types of things.
Yeah, and you probably don't want to be attacked again like that.
No, that's crazy.
What about you guys? What's your take on protection? Or
Well, I got this little prayer that I got from a priest in, where did they get that at? Florida or something?
Yeah.
'Cause I have a hard time whenever I try to talk to somebody from the Catholic Church or whatever. They don't really like to talk to me when I tell them I'm with a paranormal group or whatever.
yeah,
It's
that happens a lot, I think.
Yeah. So I know people that are like into Wiccan and stuff like that. So I get some cleansing advice from them.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the prayer, like I said, from, I think it comes from a Baptist church. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I do things like that. And then I'm always trying to, say things like, when we're investigating, I say, we're come in peace, and we come in peace, and we're going to leave the same peace and respect, and we're going to leave the same way.
That's good.
So sometimes you'll hear me say that over and over and over again on investigation. I don't typically put like the prayers and stuff in there because, it is, couple sentences and that's it.
I mean, it's your intention is what's the most important thing, like the intention that you have and what you say, like, you guys have to stay here. You can't go home with us. Mm-hmm. We're saying goodbye. We had fun visiting, but you got to stay here. You can't go home with us.
Right.
But it's sort of like goes to your point what you're saying earlier about, because this is how we do it too, as far as like, treating them like people, because they're people, that's, they're the same, like you were saying, you and me having a conversation, Yep. There is we don't provoke or none of that stuff. We don't believe in that, but, we treat them just like they're just regular people, and we get a lot of great evidence, I think, because of that. So
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's a very valid, excellent point. I mean, that's it's the one thing I could drive home to pretty much anybody that wants to get into this or that has done it for any period of time. We all know the same thing. It's just like talking to any other person. And if you treat somebody with respect, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a positive result versus a negative one.
Right.
So,
And that's true. It's like kind of what you just said too. Somebody starting out. First off, I want to tell them that throw out everything you're seeing on TV because
exactly.
that's not how it is. It's not real life. That's not. Those things are done for ratings and that people watch. And it's a lot of dramatization and stuff. It's just not. It's not true.
Mm-hmm.
Now there are some of them that do it the right way, and then that is raw. That it is not built for people watching it necessarily. Like it's not built to get the ratings. It's built for the actual exploration and the the pursuit of finding answers. And
Right.
it's just not about TV. There are those people on TV doing that. So,
Mm-hmm.
Right, I believe that as well. I got a couple of them I could actually name, but just the ones that I personally like. But everybody has their own, I'm sure, and I like the ones that are like there for just the theatrics and stuff like that too. It does help the field, but it also provides another barrier. Which you got to take the good with the bad if you want it to flourish, and that's kind of like where this is at, I believe, nowadays, because if you didn't have that, it wouldn't be where it's at now. It wouldn't be as accepted. I mean, you got some things now that people will actually take and look at, your theories and things like that, and okay, and they'll take, kind of pause a little bit, before they just say, well, that's just crazy pseudoscience, whatever. You've heard that for years, and finally it's starting to get something where it's like, at least they're pausing to think about it, like, well, maybe there's something to this. Let's crunch some numbers. Let's do this. Let's do that. You know what I mean? It actually is kind of like a talking point now more than anything. And some of them's, even going further, which is nice to see.
Right. Yeah, or even if you don't if you're not ready to accept what they say at the moment, if you write it down and come back to it later, maybe exactly. When it actually makes timing wise, it makes sense to you later on. You're like, aha, that person was telling me about this. Now I know what they're talking about. I like to do that a lot because there's so much out there. There's just so much out there. You can never learn it all at one time. We will never in our lifetime. I'm not saying in humanity, but we will all in our lifetime not learn all the answers.
Yeah, for sure.
So that goes to other things. I know you're talking about learning the answers, but that opens it up to some other things that we do. Like, do you guys believe that everything is under the kind of the same umbrella as paranormal wise, like UFOs, cryptids, and all that kind of things, or you just strictly think that it's just kind of spirits, or what's your opinion?
I think there's some kind of connection to everything like that, and I also have a feeling that religion. Every different religion that there is kind of plays some kind of tie into this because like for example, Hinduism, they believe in reincarnation. Christianity, they believe in, Jesus and heaven and hell. And, I don't feel like this is kind of where my views, because I'm an agnostic theist. So I believe that there are gods or multiple, beings that are of a higher sense, but I don't know what they are, and I don't know if they will be knowable. But that's kind of where I go into that. I feel like the UFOs and the cryptids and stuff on Bigfoot and things of that, they might have some kind of ties with them as well.
Yeah.
Sydney said, I agree.
That's kind of what I think about it, is kind of like I always classify them all under the same umbrella to me. Like paranormal is all of that. It's not just spirits, or it's just not UFOs or Bigfoot or the Mothman, whatever it is. To me, it's all in one category, and then it's just different variations of different things. And why can't UFOs exist or aliens exist, and then Bigfoot also, and spirits, and it's all to me the same. So
yeah. So for me, I definitely do think they're all connected. They're, in my opinion, I think they're not united as just one thing, but they're branched off different ideas of the same thing. Like Bigfoot and all those mythical creatures, they all stem from some sort of spiritual plane that they could have came from or whatever. Same thing with like aliens and all that other stuff too. It's all connected in one united thing, but it's also in a way branched out and different in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So for me, it's kind of a lot of like what they said too. But like for example, if you take like I don't know, the best way I can describe it would be like Egyptians. Okay, they write hieroglyphs all over the walls of pyramids and stuff. For example, well, you see things that look like airplanes and spacesuits and things like that. Well, we know back then they didn't have technology like we do today, or maybe they did, but maybe it was whatever. However, they got it, didn't have it. Maybe they had it, whatever. Their perception could have been different. Like, you got a fiery ball of whatever coming from the sky, and they're going to say, "Oh, there's a chariot of the god," or whatever,
or an archangel of some type of angel classification.
And really, it could be a spaceship, or it could be whatever, and it's just their interpretation of it could be so much
or
different.
a falling star.
Yeah, and it just spawns all these other things that is probably partly or mostly or completely connected.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe it. And it was like you said, it is kind of like the way I think about it is like I said too, is being under the same umbrella, but is like, if you can't just believe in ghosts and spirits and not be open to the fact of, the other things, you can't just be that closed-minded and be like, I think, you can't just be like, well, it don't exist. Or, it's like, how can you say ghosts exist if you don't say that you think Bigfoot can be possible, or
Exactly.
Or, it's just kind of odd to me to be that close-minded and be like, accept one, but not the others, or even be open to it. But
exactly.
I have a question kind of for Jeff in the audience. He said that he thinks that religion is under the same umbrella as paranormal, but not aliens. And I want to ask him, if he hears me, to chime in what his perspective on aliens and how are they different, because I kind of have some ideas on that, but I just want to kind of see if he thinks the same thing I think.
Yeah. No, so, we were talking about TV shows and everything, and kind of opens up everybody else to this paranormal world, but stuff we got to fight through. The way they do things and shed the light on it, but the movies do the same thing. It's like sometimes they portray paranormal investigators not in the greatest light, where like we're just kind of like kooks or whatever, but there are some of those movies out there though that don't, that kind of you automatically want to put Ed and Lorraine Warren out there. A lot of people think they were frauds. I don't, but I think they're really legitimate and try to help people. But the movies really kind of exaggerate, I think, some things that are to do with their case files. But did they really help people and do the things they did? Yeah.
I wanted to add to that when you mentioned Ed and Lorraine Warren. I was watching. I couldn't help. This is actually one of my favorite episodes from Ghost Adventures, is where they had done the Conjuring House. And when that movie came out, it sparked more of an interest, and they had issues like people trespassing onto the property and things of that nature. And knowing a little bit of background about Ed and Lorraine Warren, I think Ed and Lorraine Warren had some good intentions, but I feel like a lot of the time, and I agree with Andrea Perrin when she had said this, when Ed and Lorraine had actually went to help her family with what was going on in the house, I feel like they did have the very best intentions, but sometimes I feel like they were way in over their head because there was a lot of stuff that they were messing with that they were not prepared for.
I agree. I've heard a lot of interviews of people that actually that worked with them and knew them, and even actually he had Ed Warren kind of basically I think had said something like that to some extent to a psychic medium that I heard interviewed on a podcast. But yeah, and I think that what happened to Lorraine that time that she had such a bad, terrible, dark experience that she didn't leave her room for like 5 or 7 days. I think that that was what you're talking about, that there was just so much stuff out there that once you keep digging and digging and digging, sometimes when you look into the abyss looks into you. Yeah.
Sometimes it looks into you too deep that you may not know how to handle that either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so recently I started watching a show called The Holzer Files, and I started doing a little looking on
Favorite.
Holzer. Yeah, that was
Good show.
Oh, I really enjoy that, and I would put that that guy's investigations right up there with Ed and Lorraine, because they're going into things that there's no blueprint for, there's no book, there's no guideline, and they're just going at it, saying, okay, I'm not scared, I'm going to figure this out, whatever. And yeah, sometimes they're going to be clumsy, is what I'll call it. Sometimes they're going to make mistakes or whatever, but that's kind of part of what we're in for. If you don't, it's not really like the exact science. You don't have like 2 + 2 = 4. You have 2 + 2 plus this plus that. Take away that, it might work around over here to 3, but you might end up over here to 20. And that's just how this field works. Everything's like a revolving circle. There might not be a circle. There might be a point. It might end up over here. It's just, there's no rhyme or reason to it. And sometimes it happens the way it happens for whatever reason that it happens. And I think that those kind of people are, in my mind, like pioneers, and it's fantastic to me. I really admire that kind of work,
Right. And that
I just actually said they're pioneers for sure, because some people were talking in the chat or whatever. That's how I would describe them, I guess, because they did teach a lot of stuff for everyone to learn from, a lot more than any other two single people, did before this all actually got really big and really more popular.
Yeah, it's like I mentioned those movies because the Conjuring universe, the movies, they're some of my favorites. But what I was saying is just like you can't take that to what it's like, because it's not. That's Hollywood amping up everything. And then of course Annabelle, things like that. But she's a real doll, but nothing like what the movie was what they're saying. But it's just try to fight through that negative stuff that we go through, like to prove things and to present evidence. It's not like the movies portray us to be.
Exactly.
Is that kind of, Joe, why you like the Holzer Files? Because of the like old style, and it's kind of more simplistic, and they went back to sort of like dig up 50 years ago, like a ghost hunter's experience and how he did things?
Yeah, that's kind of why I like it. But I'm also a person that really enjoys history. So anything that, like, he did a lot of stuff like on the East Coast, for example, that is just really fascinating to me. And that's where some of the first colonies and stuff were. So anything and everything that happens over there is like, it's just very enigmatic to me. It's very treasure, that you just stumbled upon this thing, and it's just like I can't get enough of it, especially that show. I mean, there's just so many more layers and layers. And the guy, I always forget his name, the bald-headed guy.
David?
Yeah. He's got a
David
podcast or whatever that's actually really good.
He's really intelligent, I think.
Yes. The show kind of portrays him a little bit goofy and stuff like that, but the guy's he's really smart.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of tricks up his sleeve, and he knows quite a bit. So it's really nice to see him on there.
The whole cast of that show is like the perfect meal, like the meat, the potatoes, and the vegetable, like, or whatever, the bread. They're all like, just like the most cohesive trio that I've seen in any ghost hunting thing. That's just my opinion. So if any of them ever watch this, I'm, like talking idealistically, they're just like the perfect. You got the psychic medium, and then Shane Pittman is just awesome too. I just think that show is great. It's really great.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
I agree. But that goes back to the point. It's like to what I was talking about earlier. It's about the TV shows, the ones that really actually do it to present evidence rather than
Yep.
viewers. You know what I'm saying? Because that's to me that's like she just said, you got the perfect alliance. Really, it really is. But and I love that show too. But that's one of the ones that really is in it to do the right thing. I think so. You know, not necessarily to
Like they're not
viewers.
seeking ratings.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm sure in some way they have a contract to go by that they have to adhere to, but like the way that they do the show is just, I guess I couldn't do a more perfect show for paranormal, I don't think.
No, and I think it's so popular because they do it that way. You know.
I was going to pull up Jeff's comment and see what you guys want to say about it. It's interesting. He has a good, interesting perspective. I think that religion follows more closely to paranormal because a lot of it's word of mouth or just a belief. Not to say that seeing spirits and ghosts is just a word of mouth thing, because I've seen and heard things myself. But as for aliens, them being different than spirituality and paranormal, he said it's more statistically probable that they are actually out there somewhere. Just my opinion.
Yeah, I can kind of agree to that. Not that I don't believe in spirits or anything, but I can kind of see what he's saying with that because, you know, we still don't even know like our own existence and how we even started or how we even got here. It's very possible that, and I don't believe that we can't just be the most intelligent thing that's out there. I don't believe that. I don't.
Or I don't either. I think you're onto something there. I think that there could be something more intelligent than a lot of us. I'm just saying. I mean, I was watching a documentary today over sea creatures and how much pollution is in the ocean in some parts of the world, that animals are on the brink of extinction in 50 years if we don't stop polluting the waters and fishing for them and killing them just for, you know, like whatever selfish reasons. And I was like, I told the people that were watching it with me, I was like, I wonder what aliens think when they're hovering over the ocean, because you hear a lot of times that when sightings are seen, that for some reason that there's a lot of UFOs hovering over bodies of water. And I'm like, I wonder what they think when they look down at those animals and like look how polluted that we're. I don't know. It was just a thought that like my mind had about how disappointed they probably are in us.
Yeah.
If they do exist, they're just like, man, these people ain't getting it.
Yeah. So, all the places you've been and everything, and the evidence you've gotten, what would you say is probably like your best evidence, like your favorite piece of evidence you've gotten?
I think for me, my favorite piece of evidence was something that we got with my son. This happened at Hughes School. You was what, 8,
9 or 10, something like that.
He's pretty young, and there's a pump outside out back in the back. It's a one-room schoolhouse, and it's basically it's listed on the National Historic Register in Westchester or whatever. And so they keep it there as storage or whatever. I don't know. They might do other things with it. I'm not sure. But we went there for an outdoor investigation we took the kids and stuff for, just kind of like to poke around. I think it was Diane's idea, actually. So we go there, and I think he touched the pump or whatever, and we got what I would consider a Class A E.V.P several times. Said, push, boy.
Yeah.
And every time we've been there since, it's always, the boy and push it and all this stuff. And it's really astounding. It really is. And it's always focused around him.
I think, I'm sorry.
And I was just going to ask what he just said, if it was kind of like drawn to you.
Okay. Yeah.
I think so.
Go ahead, Alex.
Sorry.
You're good.
So, yeah, with like some of the history that's happened there, I have to brush up on it. I do remember something about a janitor being there, and I think he was like interested in kids, not any in bad way or anything, at least to my knowledge. He was always comforting, I guess. And that was my theory. It could have been the janitor that was there. I do believe he died on the property. But yeah, the action I was doing, there's a little push well that's there that you pump water for outside the one-room schoolhouse. And I was doing the pushing motion, and something like that just happened. And for me at the time, it was crazy. And I think for me too, to answer you guys' question, the most scariest time that's ever happened, it was at that same place, Hughes School. It was another day. It was actually at night too. We were going around back the building, and there's a little playground set.
That's at Liberty, next door.
Okay, yeah, Liberty. So there's like two schools combined next to the one-room schoolhouse. And went around back, and there's like a little playground there, and there's like no wind or nothing, and the swings started going back and forth on its own. It really freaked me out to be like 9 or 10 years old seeing that.
Wow.
I'll say one of the most incredible pieces of evidence that I think that we've caught was actually at Poasttown Elementary. When I was doing the history for Poasttown Elementary, I did not know this at the time. There was a baby that was found. There was 2 train accidents on the same day that had happened. And Poasttown was a makeshift triage hospital for those victims. There was a total of 36 people that had actually died. But there was a baby that was found alive, a 7-month-old baby that was found alive, yards away from where this had happened. And I don't know if it was a boy or a girl, but they gave an age saying it was a 7-month-old baby from what I got, I think, from the Middletown Historical Society. The most compelling piece of evidence that we got was actually with my sister, Sam. She was like really drawn, that she was another person that's kind of like drawn to energy as well. We had actually set up a doll that kind of like went off. It's like one of those automatic little baby dolls that would like, suck on the binky or like a bottle or something. And we had set it there in front of the camera and stuff. And we were doing a session with the Necrophonic app. Now I was kind of skeptical of this app at first, but I was like, let's try it out. Let's do it. So as we were sitting there doing this session with the Necrophonic app, we were asking like who was there, basic questions. We hear the sound of like an infant laughing or cooing coming through, and we were like, a baby. And then we had it kept going and kept going throughout the night. Like there was cooing, there was crying, there was laughing. And then like later on, after I had found out about the baby, I like literally got chills because it was like, oh my God, we got that several times.
That's pretty good.
That's interesting because it was a survivor, right? There were 36 people that passed away, you said, but there was a baby that was found and that was alive.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
I wonder why you got baby. I don't know. I'm not going to pick it up. I'm not there investigating, but I'm like, why did you get all this baby noise if it survived? Is it not alive now? Is it residual?
So the train accidents happened in like 1918. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty sure this person might be dead at this point. But it was really odd because I'm like, well, the baby was found alive, but it was like kind of tying in with the baby. It was weird. It was definitely weird.
Interesting. That's really interesting. I had a question.
I don't remember if she actually asked, but how did you guys actually form your team?
Oh, okay.
Well, okay. So when we first started off, it was actually me and a neighbor of mine, and originally it was just us two for a while, and then my ex-wife got involved, and eventually these two got involved with it, and my brother. And my brother came along shortly after we started, but I don't remember exactly when everybody did. But we was watching ghost shows, or we was talking about something or whatever, and then we was like, yeah, we're gonna try that. So we bought We actually went and bought an old tape recorder, with the actual cassette tape or whatever. We set it in
Yeah.
a cemetery and let it record all night long, thinking, "Oh, that's great." And we went home. So we come back and got the thing the next day, started listening to everything. These two and their mom, my ex-wife, were a couple of them were crying or nope, we ain't messing with that. Whatever, because some of the stuff that come across was like, it's almost like you overexpose the camera. Like I had the volumes too loud and everything.
Yep.
It sounded like, no, it was really bad.
Yeah, like a growling sort of.
I had no idea how to control the levels. There was a train in the background that was coming through too much, and it was like really drowning everything else out. So it sounded like there was a lot of stuff there. And then we actually got the levels corrected and stuff, and there really wasn't much of anything there. But
Was there not?
before we realized how to, adjust the levels and everything without like storing the files, it took a minute because it scared the hell out of all of us at the beginning.
You were like, this is like when the
doing.
Beatles play the record, Beatles record backwards. No, I'm just
I was
kidding.
like, wait a minute, this is my
Record
first one.
backwards.
We're already getting all this. Wow, this is crazy. I don't know if I want to do this.
There was a question Ricky Leah asked. I think it's for everybody. Can a spirit hide or get scared away from drama that's created by an individual or by a team or a team member? I think you meant.
I think that yes, they can, especially with children who are spirit children, because if you come off with a negative presence, like if you're doing, that's why I don't really like doing the provoking, especially if there's a child spirit there. I don't feel like the child's going to come to look and seek, like trying to interact with you because, a 6-year-old child's not going to come to you when you're yelling at them. Why would you want to provoke and do things? And, especially with children, I honestly think that that's definitely something that can definitely happen, that they could hide or get scared.
Yeah, I think so for sure. I think exactly what you were saying, and I think that sometimes, the whole thing about spirits is, they don't want to be seen unless they want you to see them, which they manifest that energy or even take it from you or your equipment or whatever, and they'll show you something, or it's just enough to maybe move something like a little ball or something or make a noise. So, but that's only if they want to. It's not because you're asking them to or telling them to. Like you said, provoke them to. It's really kind of all on their terms. But it goes back to what we were saying earlier: is that, you treat them with respect like they're people, and you're going to go a lot further.
Yeah, that was going to be my point right there. Is if you're just talking to them like you would anybody else, they would have a lot of the same responses, feelings, that kind of thing that it would be with a normal person that you're talking to on the street.
Yeah, exactly. And I think too is like we brought this up a lot in different interviews we've done and places we've gone to. But one of our other members, Rick Chase, says this a lot, that if a guy was a prick in life, he's going to be a prick in death. That's the same thing too.
Right.
So though you got those kind of spirits too that will mess with you, flick your ear or whatever. Those guys, they do the same thing. There's no difference.
Right.
So I've always believed that too.
Yeah.
And I also believe that kind of goes into what happens with like paranormal equipment. I honestly believe that there's a reason why your equipment malfunctions when it does, because I feel like spirits that don't want to be seen will not be seen, and they're telling you like, "Hey, I'm not doing this."
Yeah, we run into that a lot. I'm sure maybe you guys have probably experienced that, things where your batteries are just drained, or even though they're new, or if you have an SLS camera, sometimes they'll just die. It's the same thing. Like sometimes the SLS camera, it kind of changes the game a little bit because you can see them, and it kind of, I feel like we've had the reactions that it freaks them out because they don't really know how to react because they're not used to being pinpointed.
Mm-hmm.
And if you really believe in that SLS and really know how to read it, it's a great tool to have. But they're not used to being seen, like you were saying. They don't want to be seen.
Right.
It's all, everything that happens is all on their terms. We're just there.
Exactly.
What kind of questions you got? Anything, Rosie?
What's floor? There was a question from Adam Ramos. Has anybody ever used floor during investigation?
Flour, like the
Oh,
cooking.
flour. Okay, I wasn't reading it.
Yeah.
I've used baby powder before.
Really?
Yeah, it's kind of the same situation. I didn't really get anything on it, but there was some walking and stuff in a private home investigation I did years ago, and we had the idea to okay, we got some baby powder in the car. We'll put some of that down, see what happens. Didn't get anything, but we still heard the footsteps and stuff. So it was really one of those things. I was like, man, that would have been really cool if I'd have got something on the baby powder on the floor. That would have been really cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's still a cool experiment, to try. There is some locations that people talked about you can go to do the same thing with the baby powder and put it on your car, like at a train track that a lot of people has been killed at or whatever, and see the handprints in it on that,
Yeah, that's exactly what I was like.
you know that people
Hey,
swear.
Steve. Some people are asking some questions about an anthill theory. Have you guys heard of that?
Anthill.
Mm-mm.
I'm writing these things down. That's why I'm not ignoring it, and y'all, I'm listening, but I'm writing these down because anytime I hear about some kind of theory that has anything to do with science or paranormal, I have to research it. So I'm just writing them down as they're posting them.
I don't even know what the anthill theory is. I've never heard of that one.
Never.
Can't say I have either.
I don't know. I feel like I've heard the name of it, but I never looked it up, like what the theory was or whatever. No spirit should feel what they lived before they pass while they remain in the world of the living.
Definitely.
I definitely agree with that.
No spirit should refill what they live. Well, I don't know. I mean, that's one of them things where I guess it depends on what type of energy it is. If it's a strong enough energy where it's not residual, you never know what they're going to be experiencing. And it's kind of like the term poltergeist. It's noisy ghost or whatever. Well, that came from the term that they just make a lot of noise. Well, does it mean that it's like an aggressive spirit? Well, it depends on who you talk to. Sometimes they'll say, well, yeah, that's their nature and that's what they do. Well, I've seen stuff before, legitimate evidence where it just looks like somebody's trying to get your attention, and is that what it is, or is it really aggressive? I mean, I think it's a matter of interpretation as far as that goes. Kind of same way with the energy. It depends on what kind of imprint is either left or if it's like I don't remember what you call the one that's constantly occurring or whatever, like they're stuck or whatever, but it's not a residual. It's like an active haunt or whatever. It depends on what kind of
intelligent
there. Yeah,
exactly.
And I would have.
Yeah, exactly.
I would have said the same thing. If it's just a recurring thing over and over and over, it's just reliving that. It is reliving that emotion, because it's the same. It's over and over and over. And we do run into that sometimes, I think. And then, it's just, you got to prove, like you said, it's an intelligent thing or it's a residual thing. So, like you said, if it's intelligent, you really don't know what's going to happen, or and to your point, poltergeist, everybody hears that word and sees it as this big scary thing because of the movies. But when it just comes down to it, like you just said, it's noisy ghosts. That's really all it is.
Well, it can be caused by a ghost too. He's saying it's not caused by a ghost. It can be caused by a ghost, but it can be caused by a human that's alive right now. It can be caused by both, Ricky Lee. Because they both can have that focus, that intent, and manifest that kind of action and that activity. A human and a ghost can both do that. Go ahead. Sorry, Jason. I just had to say that.
It's totally fine. It's just that I just want people to not think that it's a scary thing when it's not.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just like you just said. It's somebody trying to get your attention, slamming a cabinet, doing all this stuff. That's because those things happen. It doesn't mean it's bad or evil or scary or
Anything that startled you is going to be seen as scary.
Yeah,
that's what I always tell my team. Like we have a couple, like my niece and her boyfriend. They recently just joined our team, and they don't do a lot with us, but they've done a couple things. And just what I told them is, we still got to get them to move cameras slowly and things like that, because they're really quiet and they really pay attention and stuff. But it's what I was telling them was, just take a deep breath. If you get to a point where you're kind of scared or whatever, and you hear something or whatever, just calm down a minute and then kind of reassess yourself. And then once you center yourself, a lot of times it isn't as scary as it initially came across as, because you're there for a reason. You're there because you're interested anyway. So you obviously broke some of that barrier down to begin with, you know, so you're just kind of heightened at the time or whatever.
And I feel like sometimes your fear is actually you identifying an energy and you feeling that energy empathically of whatever that spirit went through. And it's only foreign to you. So it makes you feel afraid because you're feeling them being afraid or them being anxious or them being sad or them being like, you know, like them reliving whatever tragic event happened that like led to their death or whatever. Like you might just be empathically feeling that, because I feel like everyone has empathic abilities that does investigating. It just depends on how much you develop it. But everybody, once you do this stuff, you start to notice things and feel things differently than you did before.
Exactly.
That's actually how I felt with what had happened this past weekend when I started sobbing. I feel like I was reliving something that this person or spirit was going through.
Like she was sad and maybe she was grieving that. Maybe she was really sad when she died. Maybe she was depressed when she died. Maybe she was sad after she died and saw her family still alive and they were sad she died. Something to that effect. And you were feeling her kind of being stuck in that vibrational, like that vibrational field, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's a lot of comments, like a ton of them. Curious, didn't want to say something wrong. Spirits have no idea of what kind of technology we use most. If you were from the 1800s, would you dare touch an EMF? Either no, probably not. I wouldn't. I promise going into investigation always is wise to explain what you are using and why. That is actually a very good piece of advice in investigation.
It
is. Yeah.
And that we do that every time, you know, explain what it does and you know how to communicate.
Exactly. That's something that a lot of teams kind of get away from. If you just stick to the basics, and that's one of the most basic things you can do. I'm here. This is what I'm using. This is what I need you to do to show me that this is what you're, you know, whatever you're trying to get, touch this light, whatever. All you have to do is do this, come up to it, you know, get close to it, touch this antenna, whatever. And a lot of teams actually get to the point where they get so excited or they're more focused on the newer equipment or whatever that they skip over a lot of things like that. Yeah. So, you know, if you take it down and you just be basic, you'll get way more of what you're looking for. You'll get, you know, more real evidence. You'll get, you know, things that, you know, you really can't explain or debunk. At least that's what we have found anyway, you know, because everybody gets excited, you know, and if you let yourself kind of get overtaken by it, you know, you're going to forget steps like that. And that's a very important one right there.
Yeah.
Right. I agree.
Also with the technology side of it, when you also use technology that someone from the 1800s, for example, doesn't know what any of that is, I kind of look at it as like, you know, we're all interested in the future, and these spirits have never even seen technology before. Some of them haven't. And, you know, I like to look at it as like they're curious and they want to know more about us than anything else. And I wouldn't be too worried about spirits touching and doing that stuff with our equipment and whatnot. I think it's like a child size or curious mindset that they have.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And they're probably poking at us curiously, just like we're poking at them curiously, you know. Like,
exactly.
What is that? You know, why are they here? Why are they in my space? Why are they talking to me? And why do they look different than me? You know, like why do they act different than I do?
Exactly.
Guys, like, can you explain to everybody watching, like, where everybody can follow you guys and watch your stuff?
Yeah, so if you go to YouTube, you can go to www.youtube.com/C/E.V.P.S Paranormal, and that's our YouTube page. On our YouTube page, if you're on a computer, there's links to our TikTok and Instagram. Instagram, you can find it at I forget what the Instagram link is. It's just Instagram and then
Yeah.
E.V.P.S Paranormal.
So there is our YouTube channel.
Gumshoe. I'm gonna call you Gumshoe. Yeah.
Yeah, we're working on our website. We've had a website for years, but this is why I feel like I'm very fortunate. Like I said, my kids, I brought them into this stuff, when they were way young. Well, now they're at the point where they're old enough to help out, and they really enjoy it, and they want to get actively involved. And I've got both of my nieces involved in the group, my brother. So one of my nieces has actually taken over the responsibility of completely redoing the website. So we recently just purchased E.V.P.S Paranormal. Was it EVPSParanormal.com?
Yeah.
So that's ours now. We're kind of revamping the website, but eventually we'll have that up and running. Diane now manages our Facebook page. So that's actually been going really well. She's been doing a lot of work on that.
Fantastic researcher, by the way. Just huge shout out
I can
to her.
already tell. I'm actually pretty amazed at her age. How I don't know, together she is at her age. Because I'm almost 40,
Yeah.
Huh? You did a good job, Dad. You did a good job, Dad. We have one more question.
Here's our Instagram.
Okay, yeah. Someone was asking what your YouTube is also. Make sure you put the periods in there too, like E period, V period, P period, S period. If you don't, you might not find it because it was hard for me to find without the little periods in there.
Yeah. It's very.
Someone asked about your YouTube, huh?
Yeah, it's very funny like it. Do you have links on the YouTube channel or in the description? Yeah, it depends on the. Okay, so about the YouTube channel, it depends on what you're using. If you're using mobile, I think you have to go to the About section, and then you'll see all the links in there. But if you're on a computer, it's actually really nice because the main picture there is at the bottom of the banner. You'll see all the links for TikTok, Instagram, our website, Facebook. All that stuff is linked up right there. I don't like how YouTube does that. It'd be nice if it was the same way on the mobile platform, but if you just take an extra step and go to the About section, you'll see all the same information there. They just split it up.
Here is also
they have the same little symbol too, like the symbol that's on their stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
That I've seen on most of them, they have the same little photo, and then a white circle with a little ghost in it.
Yeah,
is it red?
Yeah, with the red text.
Red with red letters. Okay, that's what I thought. So if you guys look for them, look for that same symbol.
There is also a couple platforms like TikTok and Instagram that use a different one. We haven't really updated those yet. Something we can work on too.
Yeah, and if on the main website, I don't know if I have it linked up on YouTube. We have a SoundCloud, and pretty much anything that we've ever gotten, we try to upload it to SoundCloud. And we've got hundreds of sounds on there. Some of it's just raw format. Some of it's like little clips of things. And most of it, obviously, you got to put like headphones and stuff on to be able to hear it. And it's quick little clips or quick cuts or whatever. But we try to cut, when we make a cut, we try to actually cut the audio. We don't distort it. We don't raise the gain. We don't do anything like that. Just cut the actual audio. That way, if somebody wants to do that part of it, then they can, kind of enhance it for them to hear it. Some of them are really clear and really easy to hear. Some of them obviously are, not. But we try to put all the evidence out there so somebody could, make their own interpretation. So we use a lot of different platforms like that. And so he's actually going over our SoundCloud right now, Alex is. So that's going to get a revamp eventually.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if they can't find the other ones, they can message you on any of those platforms and ask you the other links. E.V.P.S. Oh, that's cool. I like I don't know what you call it, like the sound waves or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's cool. Thank you guys for coming on the show. Lots of interesting stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah. And maybe we'll have another future interview with you guys later in the future after y'all do some more investigations and stuff. Sometimes we like to bring people back on if they want to come back on and share, give an update or whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, perfect.
All right.
Everybody go follow their social media and check them out, guys.
You guys have a good night.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.